Okay, so now we want to determine if there are multiple card holders and talk about amounts near or over 2,500 and then conclude and talk about some things that might be in your internal audit report back to your manager. So here's where we were in IDEA. We had just summarized. In fact, in audit step, jumping ahead a little bit here, in audit step 8, looking for amounts near or above 2,500. We can close this out, but you already know how to sort this. By double clicking on this, you can go from low to high. So you can look at amounts at 2,500 or above, sort it here and cut this off and put this as evidence to support that step number 8, or you can do the sorting in Excel from a download that you already have from a prior step. Either way is fine. But what we want to do now is do the test for multiple cards, okay? And so we're going to do it on this particular file so we can leave it open. And what we're going to do is go to Analysis and then Duplicate Key. And we're going to go to Exclusion. And then we're going to get this pop-up key. And we want to match the card holder to a different card number. So the field that must be different is card number. So we want card holder that has a more than one different card number. And then we will hit OK. And we have 3 people with duplicate cards. Looks like Glenn has 2, Trish has 2, and Wendy has 5. That doesn't mean those are not authorized. Those particular people may serve more than one department. And so they may have a card for each department so that it could be charged to different places in the general ledger. But what we want to do is report and put the evidence in our internal audit report so that we can follow up and find out if in fact they are authorized. And if they are, fantastic. And if they're not, then you can follow up. So you would download this and you would put it in as an exhibit and sign off on it in your audit report. I'm going to put Exhibit X because I'm not sure what exhibit or Exhibit C or D or whatever it is. Obviously, you would do it in sequence based on the other exhibits you have. So for me, that would be Exhibit F. Amounts near or over 2,500. So we just talked about doing that either by sorting it in IDEA and exporting it or sorting it in Excel. So you would say see exhibit, whatever exhibit sequencing you're using. So the next letter in the alphabet if you're using exhibit 1, 2, 3, however you're doing it. So let's talk about the report. You're supposed to write a brief report to the manager. So you want to make it easy to skim. You want to be sure that they can immediately figure out from the very first sentence, did it go well? And if it didn't go well, what is the degree of the problem? And so your first sentence should say controls are working or controls are not working. And then some idea of if they're not working, whether it's minor or serious. I clipped a few submissions from prior periods. I cut them off because, of course, I don't want you to pick up sentences and repeat them back to me, but I just want you to get some sense of organization that prior students have used. So this one had 5 major points and explained in the 5 major points. And they indicated that they had 5 different controls that weren't working, but controls 1 and 4 being the most critical. And so the most critical one should come first. And this was better than just listing the 5 and letting the reader decide what was the most serious. At least they brought the most serious to the reader's attention. But typically you would put the most serious ones first. This particular student had 4 controls they wanted to bring to the attention of the reader. They didn't put them in any particular order. Notice how the bullet format works pretty well for numeric. You could even use a table where you could have a label and a number and then a comment off to the right on the seriousness. Notice how none of these are trying to fix the problem. They're just reporting what the problem is and then indicating that they would follow up relatively soon to see whether or not it was fixed. So you tell the managers what's wrong. The managers are responsible for fixing it, and then you follow up. In this case, since due to the severity of the problem, you might come back 4 months from now and retest and see whether or not you wouldn't wait 3 years. If it had been clean as a whistle, you might wait 3 years, but this would be closer to a handful of months. Here's another one, and here, instead of listing them 1, 2, 3, 4, what they did was group them by the types of control failures as far as from their point of view, how they were. And they had some other observations in addition to the control breaches, and that was due to some of the things that we saw in terms of employees and that sort of thing. This particular student grouped them by the type of audit step. We were checking for valid codes, we were checking for users, we were checking for card holders, and so forth. So those are all possible ways to organize your report. Notice that all of those reports are relatively brief. They are pretty close to 1 page. And so that would be an appropriate length. You want to create them in Word, and you want to import them into Excel, into a separate sheet. So you want to create your own sheet, and you want to call it report or something like that, and then you would import it here. Insert, one over here to object, create from file, browse, obviously this wasn't an internal audit report. I just imported something else, but just so you can get the idea of how it's done. Alrighty, I look forward to seeing your audit reports.